Hi, everyone. Welcome to the stream. It's Miriam Dorset here. I'm live with Neysa King, author, CEO, all around woman powerhouse. Her upcoming book, Rainbow Bodies, coming out, and we're going to talk about her journey around putting that book together and the learnings that she's had, what it's about, etc. Hey, Neysa, how's your day going?
Hey, Miriam. It's going really well. Thank you very much for having me on. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, and happy to have you in Miami. Because you are somewhat new-ish to the scene, right? To the beach.
That's true. Less than a year. So I got here October 1 of last year during COVID. And yeah, I moved, with dreams in my pocket about, becoming a writer and publishing a book. And so now here we are, it's just before it's about to go to print.
Right. And it's kind of an interesting, story that I think would inspire a lot of people. If you don't mind sharing kind of what brought you to Miami, because there was,
Sure.
there's details offline. But.
Definitely. So, yeah, so for the last 10 or so years, I was in the tech industry. I was working as a product manager in different levels of organization. So I was, everything from sort of individual contributor product manager, and I worked my way all the way up to COO, was my last job at a blockchain company. And in April of last year, the company that I was working for had to let me go because of COVID. So because we were planning this big coming out party, and it was a brand new startup, and then suddenly everything got locked down, and so I lost my job. And in parallel to that, like over the last 3 years or so that I was doing that work, I was really reigniting my passion for writing. And it was something that I had put to bed kind of years before as just impractical, and how are you going to make money off of that, and all of the things you tell yourself. And so I was really just focusing on work. It was a good living, and I told myself that that's all I wanted. But I was really I had started again, maybe about it was around 2017. And I found all my old writing journals, and I was looking through them, and I was like, nobody is telling me I can't write but me. Nobody ever told me that. I'm the one who told me that. So I was like, I'm just going to make it part of my life. It doesn't have to be my job. I don't have to make money off of it. I'm just going to write because I love to write. So I started writing every day for 10 minutes. That's it, just 10 minutes. And pretty soon I had a poem, and then pretty soon I had 5 poems. And then pretty soon I had, a little book of poems. And then I said, oh, okay, well, I wonder if I could get any of these published. So I started submitting, and I got a few published, and I was like, oh, okay, I wonder if I could really up-level my writing. So I started going to conferences and taking workshops, and I worked with a coach who's a poet named Roger Reeves. And that really sort of just, it became soon, that was what I wanted to do every day. And that's what I was really focused on, while I was still working in tech. And so when I lost my job last April, I just thought, I'm not going to get another job in tech. Like now's the time, it's COVID, like everybody's had a chance to take a long look at themselves in the mirror and think about what they really love. And I need to at least try. Like if I try and fail, that's one thing. But if I never try, then that's on me. So I was just like, I took some freelance work here and there, and I've still been taking freelance work to support myself. But I'm just gonna schedule my day out so that I can write. And then I got the idea to move to Miami. I was living in Austin, Texas, which is great if you're in tech. Mm-hmm. But Miami, to me, I have sort of some family roots here, but Miami always, I felt called to come to Miami. For some reasons I can explain, and some reasons I can't really explain. But one of them was just living near the ocean, which is just, for me, one of the most inspiring places you can be. And Miami has a really good, has a really vibrant writing community, particularly for poetry, with Oh Miami here, and Books and Books, and Mitchell Kaplan are just advocates, you know, for writers. And there's a big history of writers coming to Miami and down to the Keys. So I wanted to be in that. So I picked up and moved. I didn't have a job. I didn't know anybody in the city who was under the age of 65, just my aunts. And and kind of started over. And in January, I got into a workshop with Richard Blanco, the poet Richard Blanco, who was Obama's inaugural poet, about writing a chapbook, which is a first book of poetry. Usually it's a shorter book, that really helped me to coalesce my ideas. And and now here we are. And I've been able to finish the writing, and now it's in design, and it should be out in the world. And I would say in the next 90 days or so.
That's very exciting, and it's great to have you here. Just a comment, but I feel like your name is a great, like, writer name. You know? I know that's so random, and it's like, it doesn't really matter, like, what's the name, but Neysa King kind of rolls off the tongue there, if I say so myself.
It's funny, you're not the first person to say that. I actually get that a lot. That, like, people say, "Oh, Neysa King." It's like, "Are you a writer?" Like, people have just asked me that, you know. And apparently, there's a rumor going around that I'm Stephen King's granddaughter. So, which I will neither confirm nor deny.
That's it. Just be like, Stephen?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Uncle Steve.
Yeah. People do the same thing with me with Dorset. They ask me if I'm related to the football player, Tony Dorset.
And you're just like, I don't like to talk about that.
We keep a very private profile.
Right.
We just big yeah. Anyways. Okay, so the book that's coming out, Rainbow Body, is what you decided to compile on when you went through that process of working through what your first poetry book would be. Mm-hmm. And it's 12 poems, tells the story of self-discovery through some very exciting topics, sex, drugs, and sugar. Right? On Miami Beach. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Like, right? The poems explore the idea that God is everywhere, even, and maybe especially in the vices we're taught to avoid, which I think is just an interesting statement. So let's dive into that. I'm excited for it to be coming out. You're working on some other things that'll go along with it, some audiobooks, a photography project. So it's really an art project kind of in itself. And you've, I would say, made the transition successfully from working for someone to now pursuing your passions full time, which is beautiful and hard to do and inspiring. So let's talk a little bit about, self-discovery through sex, drugs, and sugar. What's going on, girlfriend? You live on Miami Beach. Are you getting into the scene there? We all, I don't know. Miami's wild.
Miami is wild, and it's in the best possible way. And I think even now, I feel like Miami, and particularly the beach, is really the center of the universe right now. You know, I mean, after everybody has been so cooped up, you know, for a year plus,
mm-hmm.
be able to come to the beach and to experience sort of the chaos and the sexual energy that really personifies Miami Beach, I think is what everybody wants to do right now. And in some ways, maybe what they need to do, you know, in order to really get back into themselves, and sort of get out of their head and into their body. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely the experience that I had when I moved here. You know, it was, I came, you know, I had just broken up with a partner of mine that was a 5-year-long relationship. Unexpectedly, I thought I was going to come here with him. And instead I was here by myself. So on top of not knowing everybody and not having a job, I had also lost like this foundational person in my life. And I remember as soon as I got here, like feeling the energy where suddenly like everybody seemed to know me, you know, and suddenly everybody here was interested in me, you know, and I think it's just, that's the energy of the city. When you come here, it's different than any other place that I've been. And so I tried to capture that, you know, that sort of chaos and sexual energy that's on the beach in the book. And it's about me. It's about me and my body and self-discovery, but it's set in that kind of indulgent and wild scenery.
Sounds hot. Not gonna lie. You're a very
Thanks.
beautiful woman.
Thank you. I think I would agree with you. It's hot. It's a good read.
Very cool. And so the name Rainbow Body, what is that about?
That's a great question. You know, so I actually thought of that name like a year ago before I had even put together most of the poems in the book. And I was actually here in Miami, like visiting to make sure I wasn't crazy and I was going to like it if I moved. So I was here for a month or so and I was writing and I wrote down the phrase rainbow body just because I thought it sounded cool. And I was like, I think that's the title of the book. And then throughout the process of writing it, then I started trying to write poems about rainbows and bodies, and like it was too forced and they were terrible. And so I put that aside. I was like, okay, maybe it's the title for a book, but not this book.
Yeah.
And then one of the exercises we did with Richard Blanco was to think about what's our obsession, you know, to read our own writing and to think about what's our obsession. And what came out is that my obsession is my body, is my own body. And I was like, oh, okay, well, rainbow body, it's got to be rainbow body. So part of it was really just the sonics. I like the way that the phrase sounds, rainbow body, and it feels very Miami because of rainbows. And but then there's actually a spiritual phenomenon called rainbow body that is where a person actually, like before their death, their body actually starts shrinking. And the idea is that they're turning into light. And there's a lot of that also plays sort of thematically into the book, that there's discovery of our own divinity. There's questions about our own divinity in the book as well. And who are we when we really look at our hearts and our souls? And is it beyond just sort of, you know, the physical?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, so you're exploring, well, I want to dive into a little bit about the body stuff. And just because it's been a powerful time for women in the past year. I mean, really a culmination of decades of work that has come about from empowering women and having us just come into our own. And so how do you see the body playing a role in women? What do you see for the future of women? How does the empowerment of, I mean, I've got a ton of questions. How does the empowerment of women affect men? And if you want to care to comment on that at all, like, any thoughts on those questions?
Yeah, those are all great questions. You know, I mean, part of the thing that was so empowering about writing this book was really looking at myself in the mirror and facing down all of the lies that I told myself about what my body was like and what it looked like. I'm sorry, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. But really like looking at myself in the mirror, looking at my body, looking at the things that sort of I called imperfections. And until I turned my perspective into, no, that's not ugly, that's not a flaw, that's beautiful. And I had to do that to write the book well. And it was a really empowering experience, you know, that we're so trained that there's sort of one type of beauty. And And if we fall short of that or we fall outside of that, you know, then that's just a flaw and we learn to deal with those flaws. But to really look at myself and to love every part of me, that alone was an empowering, that was an empowering experience for me. Not just because of physical beauty, but it made me get to know myself better, you know, because your body tells a story, you know, your head and your body are connected. So I think, like, you know, the other thing that I'll say is that we often walk around in our heads, and I'm guilty of this, and it's something that I've been working on. And this book is, I think, also showcases kind of that journey that we're always in our heads, and you have to kind of start with the body to get back into yourself. And then you can kind of, once you really know your body, then you can kind of break out again into more spiritual aspects or more intellectual aspects, I think, of yourself. But as long as that's something that you're not connected to, there's a piece of you that's missing.
So when you say get to know your body, does that mean like going through the process that you talked about, like really just looking at yourself? I assume naked. I'm just, you know, I'm saying like, hey, like whatever, this area is beautiful. This is, you know, whatever, or being grateful for like the fact that we have all of our limbs and our arms and all that stuff. Like, or is it more about like exploring yourself in the bedroom, with your, you know, you're alone or with a partner or multiple partners? Like, how does someone get to know their body?
I mean, I think it's all of the above, Miriam. I think it depends for every person, like individually, you know. I think there's no prescription, right? Like, you have to do the work to understand maybe where you've been made to feel shame or made to feel guilt, and really just question, is this something that's worthy of feeling shame or guilt about? You know, there's a quote that I love. It's by St. Augustine. And it says, love God and do what you want to do. And it's really like, something I realized is that, like, I didn't even know what I wanted, you know, like I was so trained in sort of, just, if a desire came up, just pushing it away and being like, no, that's bad. You know, that desire is bad. But to actually listen to those and to think about desires of your heart as something that's actually good for you to pursue, you know, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
To trust that.
Kay, can we get that quote up in the bottom there? What is that? Love God and do what you want to do.
Love God and do what you want to do.
I am so about that life. Like, literally. I just updated my LinkedIn to be a little snarky. I think I should have you take a look at it because you're, you know, a writer.
Yeah.
I had before up there this long, like, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. And I just changed it to like, my name's Miriam, and when people ask me what I do, I tell them I do whatever I want.
Right.
Like, that's it. Google me for the rest. Like, I'm done. But I love that. I love that quote. Do you consider yourself, do you go to church? Are you spiritual in that way? Do you, you know, obviously you believe in God, but are you practicing a specific religion or?
So personally, I do not ascribe to a specific religion. There are spiritual leaders that I really admire and follow. Thich Nhat Hanh is one of them, who's a Buddhist monk. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who runs the Agape Spiritual Center in Beverly Hills, are a couple of the ones. Eckhart Tolle I read. I read a lot, but it's mostly like I believe that all of the religions are essentially talking about the same thing, and you call it God or the universe or presence or whatever, but that's something that we can all tap into on an individual basis.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you go in about publishing a book, because a lot of people, I think, have ideas. They want to get a book out there. They're trying to make it happen. We at Bootstrap Publications are all about it and supporting people with getting their book out, showing them how they could do it self-serve on Amazon, KDP.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about your process around getting published and what made you make the choices that you made along the way. Like what was your why for publishing the book, and how did that kind of drive you down the path? Oh, look, we've got a comment. Hi, luscious Chaleur.
Hello.
Chime in. Do you do what you want to do? And
Do you want to do what you want to do? So the publishing process. So I think the first thing I would say is that, you don't have to wait for anybody to publish, to wait. You don't have to wait for anybody to tell you that you can get published. And I think with poetry, especially, it takes a long time. Just the way the publishing industry works, it's like it's like 6 or 8 months before you even get a response. And then who knows how long before you can get something published. Mm-hmm. So when I was just publishing, what I did do is when I was writing, I started publishing individual poems in journals. And I just created a routine to submit a certain number, expecting a certain number of rejections, but hoping that I would get some published. And I did that more as a way to improve, to see what was getting placed so that I could learn from those than for really any other reason.
Quick question. Would you submit to ones that, because I know there's free for poetry and all of this, you can submit to stuff that they're free, and then there's other ones where they charge you.
Yeah.
So
I would do both. I mean, within my means, I don't think one's better than another. Oftentimes they're taking those fees to pay for the production of the journal. But whatever you can do, there's lots of free submissions out there, and that's great. And there's paid ones too, and that's fine, in my opinion. Yeah. So I did that. And then when I decided I had enough for a book, I decided to self-publish, and I'm going with the company Book Baby. And I'm also working with a book designer named Cody Gates. And I just decided to DIY it because it would be faster. And I didn't want to wait for somebody else to sort of give me permission that the poems were good enough to be out there in the world. I think they're good enough. And also for poetry, I don't know if this applies to other writing genres, but for poetry, if you self-publish, it doesn't exclude you from getting picked up by a traditional publisher. So my thinking was I might as well just get it out there, see what happens and see what kind of audience I can generate. And then if something happens in the future with a traditional publisher, then fine.
Fantastic. What made you go with the Book Baby group? What do they offer?
So they'll do, what I like about them is they'll do all the distribution for you. So, you can get it in places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and whatever, and they'll help you with that. So you're not having to keep up with it yourself. Mm-hmm. And they also offer a lot of resources depending on how much you need. They'll help you with cover design, they'll help you with typesetting, they'll help you with marketing. They sort of cast a wide net, and you can kind of pick and choose the things you want to do with them versus go with another group. So they've been really good so far. I really enjoyed them.
Did you know anyone that had published with them before and had a good success?
Somebody recommended them to me who was another she also does publishing, helps people self-publish. Mm-hmm. And she mentioned them. She just did more, she didn't do a lot of poetry. She did nonfiction. And so she mentioned Book Baby, and that was why I went with them.
Okay. And so what was the reason, if you don't mind sharing, why you didn't just go and put it into CreateSpace or, KDP and upload it and do it like that?
I think for me, I wanted the Book Baby seemed I didn't trust myself to do it and make it look good, to be honest with you, and to know exactly all the steps in terms of how to get it distributed, my skills in that way, I wanted somebody else doing it for me. Yeah. That's really the only reason that I decided to do it.
Oh,
versus.
I'm so excited to see the cover. You're in cover design right now.
I am, yeah.
So
Yeah, and then, sorry?
talk us through that whole process.
So, it's been also sort of everything just, I think, like once you start getting into this process, it's like everything becomes its own little project.
Right.
But with now the cover, I'm actually working with a local artist who's a friend of mine, who we just met and started collaborating, and he started a painting also called Rainbow Body. Um,
Before chatting.
inspired by the work, and so we've been talking through sort of using that as the cover, and it's a really beautiful piece. It has that sort of duality of sort of like looking in a mirror and sort of like one side of you being sort of the rainbow, sort of like the divine creature, versus what we actually see in the mirror, which is something maybe a little darker. So it's pretty trippy. It's a pretty trippy painting. So I'm excited for it to be the cover.
Ooh, I don't know why I'm getting like visions of like, I feel like I need to do some like henna, like some temporary chakra alignment tattoos. While I'm having this chat with you, I'm feeling very called to look in the mirror naked and put chakra alignments and see myself just like glow up.
Dude, that's a good idea.
I'm gonna
I,
do it.
I would not stop you.
I'm doing it. I love God and I'm doing what I want. This is literally my mantra moving forward. Like
I love that quote. Every time I start feeling bad about something, I just think about that. I'm like, no, this is fine.
exactly. I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I want.
Yeah.
Did you have any aspiring tips for authors or aspiring writers out there? I mean, I think that what you shared about like it takes time is so great to hear because so many people like you say you want to write a book or whatever, and then if you vocalize it, you say it to someone else, you have all this pressure, and people ask you, well, when's your book coming out? When's your book coming out? It's like, well, when is your book coming out? Like, calm down, take time. Like, gosh, I mean, just like the Spanish version one for my book, over a year, and it's like, it's coming out, all right, it's coming when it's gonna be there. But
It's
what are some
yeah.
tips?
Let's see. I would say that's a great one. It will go slower than you want it to go. So just be okay with that. And it's also, I told myself it was finished probably like 12 times, and then I kept going back and editing. So it's like writing and releasing a book is just an exercise in patience. And which is not something that I'm typically very good at having, but it definitely taught me that. And I think that's been a big learning for me. And then also just all the moving pieces of like the cover and the typesetting and thinking about things like the font that you use. I mean, I had the person who's doing my typesetting talk to me about like, if you have to like ownership of the fonts and all the copywriting. And so I would say like tips for me would be like involve experts. Like go find people that have done this before, whether or not you pay them to actually do it, at least pick their brain, because there are lots of corners that you're not necessarily going to have the tools to see around. So just start at like trying to pull in people that have done something like what you're trying to do before, and just talk to them would be some advice I have.
Mm-hmm.
And don't skimp on the marketing, which is also something that like I had a hard time doing, and like I'm still is a big learning process for me, like building an audience for the book. I think as writers, we just want to write. We want to like go in our cave and like, and just write. But you can write the greatest book ever, but if nobody knows about it, then if that's what you want. I mean, some people don't care. They just want to write the book in the end,
Right.
But me, like I would love to see it like out in the world and like, generate some kind of audience around it. So it's just like, so you have to talk about it. You have to do the IG, you have to do, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
My colleague and friend of mine, Jeffrey Shaw, who's also an author, says that if you're a writer, an author, you're not in the business of writing books, you're in the business of selling books.
It's true. I still have a hard time internalizing it, you know? I mean, like, I think all of us as writers, like, we just want to sit in a room alone. Like, this is why we're writers, you know? But yeah, you've gotta, I think, number one, accept that other people might care. That which was hard for me at first, you know, other people might actually care about this, and then give them the information so that they can support you if they want to.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to say it over and over and over again.
Exactly.
People need to hear it. I think what is the average is 6 times we used to do in training when I used to work in training. That people have to hear things 6 times to remember it. So don't be afraid to share. And anyone that unfollows you, deuce, bye.
Deuce.
Sorry, like I'm not on social media for, whatever. I'm sharing my stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just realized the lighting in this room got really orangey, and I'm like, wow. I'll put on my own little skin tone for a minute. So talk to me about what is next for you. I know that you're working on some accompanied things with the book. What are those things? When's, I know this sucks, but part of the thing, like, when's your next book coming out? Like, what's next? Like, okay, Rainbow Body's over. Let's talk about what's going on next. Like, what's up?
Yeah. Okay. So what's happening with Rainbow Body is, so plug, like, the best way to get updates is to follow me on Instagram, which is just my name at Neysa King. And what's upcoming there is sort of a launch party, like an official launch party, with a physical book, an ebook, which will have additional, like, digital media assets in it, pictures of me, and then and an audiobook with which will be me reading the poetry, with bass behind it, a bass guitar. And there'll be an extra with another artist and friend of mine who's his name's Brandon Tucker. He's Urban Beauty Boy on IG, and this beautiful poem that I heard him read called "I Love Black Men," and it's just great. And I think we may end up releasing it as an audiobook, but then also, like, on Spotify and the streaming channels. So those are the next things. It's happening right now. The book is finishing getting designed, and then once that's done, then it'll go to print, and it's about a 4 to 6 week thing. And so the actual release will probably be in the fall. So yeah, so if you follow me, like, I'll be posting all of those updates. And what's next? There are other books I have rattling around in my head. What I will probably do next is actually turn to fiction. I'd like to write a novel next. That I have started, but yeah, I think once Rainbow Bud is out in the world, then I will turn to this, which is about the devil. So so stay tuned for that.
That sounds very interesting. Okay, I would love to get a excerpt when that's ready to be shared.
Yeah, I could share. Yeah, I mean, I've got the first couple of chapters written. I actually just wrote a short story about the same. That's the novel, sort of, like, but just, like, condensed into 2,500 words. So maybe I'll share that with you, Miriam, and then we can talk about that.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah, but it's about the devil meeting a woman, and instead of tricking her or harming her, it takes her to new levels of consciousness.
Hey. So I see it, there is a thread that's weaving through your your body of work. And so exciting. It's been lovely to meet you and get to know you. Everyone, make sure you follow Neysa on Instagram and stay up to date with what she's working on. If people have more questions about your journey and how, if they want to know how your publishing process has been, can they also reach out to you with those kind of things for knowledge and stuff like that?
Absolutely, yeah. So IG is the best way, but you can also go to my website. It's my name, neysaking.com. And there's a little contact form there. So you can also reach out to me that way if you're not on IG.
Yeah. And what do you do with your professional services for brands? Let's make sure to cover that too really quickly so people are.
Yeah, definitely. So I do take on freelance work, and it's storytelling. So usually it's for companies that are in the phase of growth, startup growth, or pivot, who are trying to tell their story to an audience, but maybe don't have exactly the right way or mode of saying of telling that story, or of relating it to the audience that they're trying to sell to. And so basically what I can do is I take all of my years as a product manager, doing all the market research and understanding how to talk to customers, and marrying that with my writing skills to create something that is easily understandable, and visionary for the company, to help go capture whatever market they're trying to capture.
Very important. Very important, as I'm learning with my messaging.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially I think for like sole entrepreneurs, because in your head it's clear, but then like talking about it's a whole different animal, So and plus you're just trying to run the business, So
Oh yeah, and I'm an artist. I'm not even
all.
like an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur, but I'm an artist.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're doing this to bring in money. People are like, what are you selling? Like, what is your product? I'm like, it's a feeling that you get. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I need a marketing messaging like expert.
Yeah. I mean, even me, like right before this interview, I was like, what is Rainbow Body really about? I guess it's mine, and you're so close to it that it's hard. You need to have a third party, objective third party is really helpful to sort of tell you what you're doing.
A translator of sorts.
Yeah, exactly. An artist whisperer or an entrepreneur whisperer.
Well, it's been great. We've got a couple viewers, so please do chime in. If you have a question for Neysa, please, now is the time to bubble those up. You can ask them right in the comments. Just type them below. I'm sure she'll answer. And thank you for tuning in. So yeah, we can give it a few seconds because now we have 3 viewers. This is actually pretty good, Nate. I've never had this many on my own personal stream, just being honest. Thank you so much, everyone who's watching this right now. It means so much.
Yes,
You're pulling in a crowd, Neysa. You're pulling in a crowd. So do type your questions or just say hello. Let us know that you're here. We would love to just know that you're watching and wish Neysa some good luck. While I'm traveling at the moment, so what's going on in Miami? How's the city? Staying magical? What's going down there?
I mean, it's hot and humid and crazy. Same old. I just got this new ink. What do you think about it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's brand new.
That in the bigger camera here. That is not a joke. That's like a whole arm piece. That's beautiful. Yeah. Look at that. There's a lot going on there. Did you post about that on Instagram so we can see it up close?
Yeah, not yet, but I will.
Yeah, I need to zoom in on that. Like there's so many objects.
Yeah, it's very Miami too, because I don't know if you can tell, but this is a flamingo.
Okay, you got a flamingo there. There's a rainbow. I see like a musical thing. Did you sketch that whole design together yourself?
Oh no, this is this great tattoo artist. Her name's Hen, and she's from South Korea. And I've been following her forever. And then she posted that she was going to New York. So I was like, so am I. So I flew up to New York and got this from her last week. So,
Cool. Oh, so she was in town, tatting
yeah.
people up.
Yep. Exactly.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So you flew to New York to get a tattoo.
I mean, I was resolved to have to go to Seoul, but
Right.
New York was
Yes.
New
Not
York was
bad.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool. Well, it looks like our viewers are being a little shy, which is fine. We still appreciate you guys tuning in to the stream today. Make sure you guys follow Neysa. And thanks for chatting with me today, Neysa. Keep in
yeah.
touch with all of your projects. And
Yeah. This was great, Miriam. Thank you for having me. It was so fun
thank
to
you.
talk with you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.